And of course, lacrosse on the menu on Saturday and again on Monday up in Foxborough. The Birds are headed to Houston, and no Keuchel there to have a tough lefty for them to face this weekend down there deep in the heart of Texas. I'm heading off with my wife for a Memorial Day weekend, and trying to catch up with some old friends. I got a lot of folks here that are meandering in and out of our content. This guy's actually a longtime Baltimorean he's gone West Coast on me now. I mean, he's out there in Los Angeles running the post game, longtime contributor and a runner of all things Yahoo Sports. He's our pal, returning home to Pikesville for the holiday weekend live via satellite from WNST headquarters west in the Hollywood Hills. We welcome David Katz back. You can follow him out at thepostgame.com as well as at KatzManDo. How'd you get that one, dude? That's a pretty good Twitter handle, man. I like that.
That's a great question. I don't know. It was a nickname that I had a long time ago, and I said when Twitter was got to come up with a clever handle, I decided to go with KatzManDo because if not, Katzman don't.
Oh,
so
hey, we wouldn't want to have that, and can't never could. All right, man, so, you're out on the West Coast. You are one of the truly expatriated Baltimore sports fans. You hang out there with the West Wing folks. I see you every time the Ravens are on the West Coast. I see you at Camden Yards when you come back and visit with your family. You check in various places at concerts and run the world a little bit as one of my kindred spirits out there. I saw you two out at the Rose Bowl over the weekend. I thought, you know what? I'm going to see what Katz is thinking about the Orioles start or the Ravens wide receiver situation or the Terps and these guys going into the draft or LeBron. So, I figured I'd just bring it full circle and say, what's up, man? How you been?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Nestor. I got to tell you, I've now been in L.A. 20 years. This is my 20th anniversary in Los Angeles. It blows my mind. I still think of myself as 100% Baltimorean, and even though I live out here, I see you. I'm probably at 6 to 8 Ravens games a year.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't feel like you're really not here because I run into you 3 to 6 times a year. Every couple of months, we wind up somewhere, and it's usually around a Baltimore sporting event, right? Or maybe the NFL meetings on the West Coast or something like that, but I don't feel like you're removed from Baltimore. Every time I see you, you feel to me like the guy at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You're watching the Orioles wherever you are in L.A., and it's probably even more convenient for you out there at 4 in the afternoon, right?
I've got the MLB.TV going 4 o'clock my time, 4:05 my time every day. I'm watching the Oriole game. At least have it on in the background.
It's like Walt Disney said, man, it's a small world after all, isn't it? I mean, really. You get to hang out in Manhattan Beach and you still get the Orioles. It's beautiful.
I got to tell you, as you know, we have a lot of traffic out here, which gives me a lot of time to listen to you on TuneIn Radio, which is another great part of technology. And I go to bed, reading the pamphlet that is now the Baltimore Sun sports section. And before I go to sleep, I've read everything that you guys are reading by the time you wake up. So with modern technology today, I'm able to keep up with all things Baltimore sports and love the opportunity to kind of shoot it with you here on the radio.
Well, I'll tell you what, we follow you out at the post game as well. Your site does a lot of long form writing and taking deeper dives, which is more my forte from a writing standpoint. And I want to get back to writing a little bit more this year. I had 14 chapters of the Peter Principles, and on my bus ride from Portland up to Seattle and into Vancouver, I actually edited chapters 4 and 5 and 6, just kind of reading because I haven't touched it in a couple of years. So, I have a real appreciation. I think we should all have an appreciation for journalism being done now, and I know you've dedicated your life to it. From the Orioles' perspective, there's not a lot of journalism done. There's not a lot of deep dive going on. The Brady Anderson story that Ken Rosenthal unearthed about 2 months ago, it's amazing how that just sort of went by the wayside, but, that's kind of a tell to some degree. I think Jimenez is a little bit of a tell of where they are, and this is a very, very slippery period for them without pitching because I don't really think they're capable of winning the World Series. Now, let them prove me wrong. Let them wreck my October and November for scheduling and use up all my airline miles to fly out and stay on your couch when they play the Dodgers in the World Series. But I don't see them as a World Series team this year. I see them as much more competitive than it was for 15 years. But the decision to give Davis all the money, where they are with Machado and what his standing in the world is and the way he's hit the ball this year and his leadership skills and his maturity. Buck and Duquette are getting toward the end. Adam Jones is getting toward the end. Britton's hurt. Tillman's not right. Gosman's not right. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, but they're playing the Yankees and the Red Sox next week, and if they have a good week next week, they'll have a 3-game lead for first place, right?
That's right. I mean, you're looking at a second-place team right now, despite all of the holes and flaws that we know are there. I think when we went into this season, if you had an inkling that they would be in this position at this point, which no baseball writers seem to have, we were always picked to finish last or second to last in our division, we'd all be pretty pleased with the start. Yet it still feels like it's not as good as it could or should be because we're sitting there looking at some glaring holes. And some of these decisions that we make and having Kim just kind of get lost on the bench, I don't know what Buck has against Kim, but it just seems like the lineups, the injuries we've had just make it so that we're not fully believers. And I think it's, as encouraged as we should be, being 7 or 8 or whatever, 9 games over 500, it's just not there.
Well, and I feel like I feel like there are better days ahead, and I do feel that way offensively. I mean, I like what I've seen from Castillo. I don't think he's going to hit 340. Same thing with Trey Mancini. I don't think Seth Smith's a 300 hitter, but I think he's a Major League Baseball player, and I'm happier to have him than Giovanni Gallardo at this point. But then the question comes back to who is going to pitch. We asked this question in November and December when the winter meetings were down there at the Taj Mahal on the Washington River banks. We ask it in spring training and in Sarasota. We ask it when Tillman wasn't right. Now we're going to ask it when Britton's not right. Clearly, O'Day, this is not, and Brock, this has not been their finest hour so far. And I don't know that gets straightened out. I think the hitting gets straightened out. I think they're going to hit a lot of home runs. I don't think Machado's going to hit 230. But this Jimenez,
Trumbo should raise his average. He should hit for more power.
Yeah, the scope's going to be fine. All of that's going to be fine. But who is going to pitch? Because if the answer really is Bundy's going to need to be, Jim Palmer, and then they're expecting Wade Miley to skate by on what we've gotten out of him the first 50 innings. I don't know, David. I have great trepidation about their pitching. Now, that being said, the Red Sox aren't going to play 20 games over 500 the way we thought they were, just go run away and hide. So no one's running away and hiding, and I don't think the Yankees are either, by the way. But I need to see better pitching to be a believer that they're going to be playing meaningful baseball games in September and be a meaningful, real representative chance to win a world championship in October. I don't believe that right now.
Not only do you need more starting pitching depth, but the thing that we lack and have lacked since arguably Mike Messina is an ace, a guy that you can send out there when you absolutely have to win one game and you feel pretty confident in their ability to bring it and win that game. And we live in a wild card era now where you can fight for 160-plus games a year for the privilege of playing a one-game playoff, and you better have the guy. And we don't have, in my opinion, the guy. And without that, you'll see what happened last year, even though we hung in there in a tough game against Toronto. We're not set up for playoff baseball, in my opinion. So all these other teams are kind of just, they get through the regular season, they get themselves in playoff position, and then the second season is a different season. And they're set up for that. I mean, I sit here with the Dodgers, look at the starting rotation of the Dodgers, and you look at almost any one of the 5 guys they're sending out there would be the ace on our team. That's not going to cut it in the playoffs.
Well, and then the other part of that is you build the depth through the bullpen, which is how Cleveland did it, which is how Chicago did it. Certainly the Kansas City Royals did it that way. And you would say, O'Day, Brock, Hart, Givens, all of these guys are coming together. But, I mean, dude, it's Memorial Day, and some of them feel a little gassed to me already, and yep. I promise you the worst is yet to come, right? Now, and the worst might be more of Jimenez down the line as a starter or coming into the bullpen, but I don't know the answer is Ynoa or Alec Asher at this point, although I'd be happy to see, give Alec Asher the ball for the month of June instead of Jimenez. Yeah, let me see what he's got for 5 starts. Okay, I mean, I'll hear that at this point, but I don't expect it to be stellar. I don't expect it to be, 2.3 ERA, which is where he is right now.
The under-over, I think, was 7 minutes into the interview as to when we would actually hear Ubaldo Jimenez's name. So anyone who took the under, you were right on the cusp there.
But what are we supposed to talk about when they give him $50 million, right? I mean, we watch him pitch every 5 days, and so do they. I don't know that Buck thinks this is a good idea at this point based on the postgame Monday night, right?
You have to appreciate the fact that the Orioles actually stepped up and made a multi-year, multi-million-dollar deal with a pitcher, because that's what we actually need to do more of. The problem is when you make that move and it doesn't work out, that's when I'm sure Mr. Angelo sitting in his ivory tower will look down and be like, you can't spend my money that way. We need to do more of that. We just need to pick the right guy and actually have them work out so that we have more confidence in those decisions. And look, Duquette has actually overall done a phenomenal job with what I'm sure he has to work with upstairs. And you have to feel pretty good about the fact that we're at least playing competitive baseball, and it gives us at least a reason to waste 160-plus afternoons a year.
He is David Katz. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at KatzmanDo. He's also out on the West Coast doing the postgame.com, and you can check them out for some great sports insights and knowledge as well. Longtime Baltimorean. All right, so little thoughts on the Ravens here as we're now into sort of the prime meat of this OTA. We're going to have a run around in a couple of weeks, and then it's going to be training camp. And, Ozzie may have a couple of more moves up his sleeve, center-wise, tackle-wise, but it does appear for now that they're going forward as it is. Were you one of the many out there disgruntled that they didn't go skill position at some point during the draft?
Well, not necessarily in the early rounds, and I don't know how much you get by picking. Our track record's not great at picking some of these skill position folks in the later rounds, but you got to make a move in free agency. We cannot go into the season. Look at the weapons in the teams that we play against. We don't have any threats. And you could talk about Joe Flacco's inconsistency and his completion rates and things like that all you want. The guy really doesn't have a lot of weapons anymore, and I can't imagine a world where he's not at least having the check down options with a Steve Smith. Yes, we'll have Danny Woodhead. Hopefully he'll be healthy, and that could be a nice release valve for him. But are we going to get the Anquan Bolden? It doesn't sound like he wants to come back here. It sounds like he wants to stay closer to his home in Florida. Who's the guy who's going to make those tough contested catches that's going to give him the opportunity to throw the occasional deep ball? I don't know. I'm sure Ozzie will have a move up his sleeve, and he'll make that move, and I'm sure there'll be someone that's thrown to the scrap heap at some point that's unexpected to, and he'll be there to pounce. At least I hope so. That's been his track record. But not giving Joe weapons when you're giving him this kind of money in the prime of his career, what is supposed to be the prime of his career, is a difficult thing. Now, that said, none of us are draft experts. We all, fancy ourselves a few days a year that we are. But when you had those 3 Alabama players sitting there on the draft board when we were ready to pick, I don't think any of us thought that he'd be going Marlon Humphrey. But I guess the image of Antonio Brown sticking his arm over the goal line and sending us to another year without the playoffs was so entrenched in their minds, and they needed to continue to solidify that secondary. We will see. I think that's a really important pick, and we hope that's more Terrell Suggs than it is Matt Elam.
Well, and then Matt Elam showed up in headlines earlier this week. Boy, that's just sad. That's the worst, right? I mean, of all of this, that's the mistake pick in all of these years, right?
There's been a few of them. I mean, the track record of us continuing to find great talent in the middle rounds and finding great talent in the undrafted free agent realm, like, you got to give the team credit. But we really have not nailed those first and arguably second-round draft picks. There's a long list of misses there. Yet our team is still competitive. We're still on the cusp every year of making the playoffs in a very competitive division. We coach a lot of guys up. Our players, for the most part, tend to get better. How many times have we thrown retreads out there in the secondary, and Dean Pease and the secondary coaches have found a way to make these guys viable players? But at some point, excellence shines through.
Well, that happened against Tom Brady for 2.5, 3 quarters up in New England 2 years ago. So,
exactly right.
Certainly on the cusp of doing that. David Katz is out at thepostgame.com. Tell him what you do out there at the postgame.
The postgame originally launched as the official sports magazine of Yahoo Sports. we believed in long-form journalism, finding fun, human interest stories, and things that will pull at your heartstrings. And we started doing this, believe it or not, 8 years ago at a time when most people were just building Me Too news sites. So we thought there was an opportunity to get back to the roots of real journalism and tell fun and interesting stories and inform sports fans across the country. So we set out to reinvent the sports magazine, and that was really our main focus as a company for a long time. And we've evolved quite a bit. We continue to do that, but we also now work directly with the PGA, the NBA, the International Olympic Committee, and others to help them tell the stories of their league and their players and their teams in a way that, believe it or not, they can't figure out how to do on their own. So we've got a great set of partners, but at our core, we are storytellers. And now we do most of our storytelling through video, even more so than the written word. As you know, Nestor, we're trying to approach these young kids, and the young kids these days, it's all about the visual medium.
No, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Snapchat, I'm out there running around, as are you, and I hope this has a happy ending at some point, right? I mean, for the Caps, for the Wizards, certainly for the Terps, maybe even last year where it really felt like they had a chance to win a championship. The Orioles have had a couple of opportunities. Right now, the Ravens appear to be in that, that period where we're still trying to figure out whether Perryman can play, who's going to run the football. So hopefully things will turn in our favor here as we get into the fall, man. I know we're doing a lot of traveling. I'm guessing you're going to London with the Ravens, are you not?
That's the plan.
That is the plan.
I expect to see you there.
Well, I expect to drink a pint with you, of course. We'll send everybody out to follow you. He is David Katz, Katzmandu, out on Twitter as well as at thepostgame.com and out in the Hollywood Hills. Hey, man, keep the sandals on out there. I'll come visit you sometime soon, all right?
Please come out soon. There's some good baseball out here, and we'd love to see you through here.
I've never seen an event at the Rose Bowl. I'm kind of a little pissed I didn't decide to do you two there, but at some point I'll see a football game there. You got a lot of football now in L.A. You got two teams.
Yeah, we got two teams, and we already had two professional teams in USC and UCLA.
Well,
so
at least I got
football out here.
I got a free cot to sleep on now that they've moved the L.A. Super Bowl back a year and gave it to Tampa, so we're in good shape. Good checking in with you, David.
We actually have a former Baltimore Raven coach who's now the offensive coordinator at UCLA, as though you need another reason to root for him. Jed Fish is out here now.
Jed Fish?
So Baltimore is being represented here on the West Coast.
Well, he has left Michigan. Yeah, I see. He's my Facebook friend. So if you see Jed, tell him I said what's up.
I will see him soon, and I will do.
You got it, Katzmandu, out on Twitter and the post game. He is David Katz of Baltimore, now hanging out in L.A. and visiting with us a couple times a year, talking some sports. He's watching as much Orioles and as much Ravens as anybody out there and covering a lot of the good deeds and good stories in the world. You can find me out in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNST TV channel. Happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody out there celebrating, tailgating, hanging out, lacrossing, baseballing, whatever it is you're doing, beaching. Have a good time. Do it safely. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.